What is up, you spooky bitches? We are back with another episode of the Hello Sidney podcast here, a podcast for horror lovers where we discuss any and all things horror. And it's me, your girl, Sidney. Welcome back to another ep. Welcome to the first Friday of what? I'm still clearly in October. Welcome to the first Friday of November. It's tough to let October go, isn't it? We got to wait a whole nother year, but it's okay because we have a great month coming up here in November. Happy first Friday of November in general. I am so excited for the theme that we're doing this month because we're doing Friendsgiving. So basically it's just a group of friends in terrible situations and they got to figure out how to get out. And today's movie, nobody really gets out. I guess kind of spoiler alert in the beginning, but yeah, nobody really makes it out, which seems to be the theme so far, because if we're going based off of the Descent original ending, nobody makes it out of there either. So yeah, that's kind of where we're leaning towards. Nobody makes it out in these. Also, we're going to have to determine who is the worst friend in these friend groups, because there are some people that are gonna be in the running, because we got Juno, that trifling dirty hoe from last episode, and we have somebody in today's episode that is pretty fucking bad too, that can be single-handedly responsible for what goes down. Because today we're talking about the movie Host that came out in 2020, and this movie is scary to me for a few reasons. So every year that this movie has come out, you know those scientific studies of oh, these are scientifically the scariest horror movies ever made, which I always see those. I've never really looked too much into them, so I don't know how legit of an experiment it is. I don't know if there's a control group or what the conditions of this experiment are, whatever. But all I know is that since this movie has come out every year, it is always in the top. I think at one point it was number one. It outseeded Sinister, because Sinister is usually number one, which I think Sinister is back to being number one, but Host is up there as well. So this movie is scary for a couple reasons. One, because of just the subject matter of it in general. It's about this seance via Zoom that goes badly, and that kind of shit scares me because I don't like to fuck with the occult, and it's movies like this that are the reason that I don't fuck with the occult. But this movie is also scary to me every time I watch it because it transports you back to COVID times, which is something that I never want to live in. And when I just rewatched this movie, I was thinking of it and I'm like, why does 2020 seem so far away to me? 2016 seems closer to me than 2020 was, and that's probably a trauma response from what we had to deal with that year. But when I watch this movie, it's I'm transported back to 2020. And the first time I watched this movie was actually in 2020. And I think I watched it on my computer, which Screen Life movies like this are Unfriended. Watching it on a laptop is much scarier because it makes you feel like you're part of the friend group and you're actually in the Zoom call. And that's how I felt the first time watching this. So the first time I watched this, it truly did affect me, especially because I was watching it during COVID times and everybody was so isolated. So watching that back now is really eerie just with that aspect of it alone. But Host was written and directed by this guy named Rob Savage. And basically this idea came because I think it was pre-COVID times when he did this, or maybe it was early COVID. But he basically was on a video chat, a Zoom call, whatever, with his friends. And he didn't tell any of his friends that he was going to be playing a joke on them. But he pretended to be attacked by some sort of spirit that came from his attic. And he was recording their reactions and he posted it online and it ended up going viral. I haven't seen that actual video, but that is what inspired him to then make a full-length movie. So I guess he got in contact with Shudder somehow and pitched them the idea and they were all over it. And thus was born Host. And it is a Shudder original, so you can find it on Shudder. Now, this episode recapping this is not going to be long because it's not a long movie. It's only 56 minutes. It's incredibly short. And the reason for that is because if you've ever used Zoom before, if you don't have a membership and you don't pay for it, the free Zoom calls are just under an hour. So that's why it's this short, because it's realistic, because it signs on in the beginning and after the very last shot, it signs you out and says your time has ended. Thank you for using Zoom. So again, it just makes it incredibly realistic. So it is very short, and it is Blair Witch in the way that all of the characters in this movie go by their real names. So if you look up the IMDb page, all of the actresses and the one actor, because there's one guy in this, all of them, their names are like their actual names, the names that they use in this movie. And it's not as extreme as Blair Witch, because like Blair Witch didn't have a script at all, but this movie did have a bit of a script. However, there was a lot of room for improv, and like they wanted them to improv, and there was actually a lot of pieces of the script that were redacted when given to the cast because they wanted to get their genuine reactions for certain things. So a lot of this is very realistic. The reactions are true. The fear is genuine. And I think that very much shows in this film and contributes to why it was as successful and why it's looked at as scary as it is. It just feels very real. And there are a couple movies that influence this film, one of which being Wreck, which you're going to see this, if you've seen Wreck, you're going to see this attic scene where she's kind of turning the camera around. That's straight out of Wreck. And it's also inspired by Ghostwatch, which we covered last month. So that's fun. And this movie was actually entirely filmed through Zoom during the COVID lockdown. So it was as realistic for them as it was for us and as it is for us watching this back. So it is all entirely done on Zoom. And yeah, it's just very realistic. So without further ado, let's get into Host from 2020. So Host is about, again, like I said, 56 minutes long, under an hour, very quick. It has a 6.5 on IMDb. I personally think that deserves a higher score, and I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have a higher score, but it does have a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that one is the one I align with a bit more. I think this is a phenomenal movie, and I think like the fact that they are able to instill so much fear and create so much tension in just 56 minutes is iconic, honestly. And it's such a simple concept. And I love a simple concept these days because I feel like so many people try to do the elevated horror and just try to like convolute it and overcomplicate it. This is just simple, straight to the point, and I fucking love it. So the movie starts, we see a screen. This is all through a screen. And we see this girl named Haley. She's joining a Zoom call and she invites some other people. So she invites Gemma, Redina, Caroline, Emma, and Teddy. So these are the people that are going to be in this call. And Haley like puts her laptop down and goes to like change her shirt or something. But we see her hear a thud in the distance of her apartment. And she starts slowly walking towards where this is. And she keeps hearing a thud. Like we can hear it too. And eventually she like grabs her computer and she starts going towards it, like with the computer face towards it. It's like, girl, get me out of here. I don't want to see this. But she keeps going towards it. And at one point she calls out hello. And a door, like a closet door in her apartment, slowly creaks open and a bunch of stuff falls out. But then she continues to a window in her apartment and she sees that the thudding is actually coming from there because her friend Gemma is throwing something at the window. And Gemma is one of the people that she's inviting into the chat, and she's using her phone right now. And she's like, let me in, because she's been in the waiting room of the Zoom. So she's yelling at Haley to let her in. So that was partially where the thudding was coming from. But then that shit also did fall out of the closet by itself. So something's already up in Haley's apartment. So Haley lets Gemma into the Zoom, and Gemma must live not far because she continues to walk home. And Gemma asks Haley, like, are you ready for tonight? And Haley says, yeah, and asks Gemma if she's ever done anything like this before, which Gemma says no. But Haley says that she has done it a few times. And Gemma asks her, like, well, does anything happen when you do it? And Haley says, yeah, like something has always gone on every time. So Gemma gets home and she joins on her computer. So now we're like seeing two of her. It's echoing. It's very overstimulating. And Gemma's like already annoying. Okay. Gemma, and that's probably because I know what's going to happen and I fucking hate Gemma. Like Gemma's already annoying just right off the fucking rip. But eventually Emma joins the chat. She says that she's nervous. And then Redina joins the chat and she's coughing and everybody's like, oh, you're coughing. You can't cough anymore because again, COVID, flashbacks, trauma. But Redina has this guy behind her who's like very loudly chopping vegetables in the kitchen, and she turns and we don't hear what she says, but it seems like she tells him to like stop or like go in a different room or something, and he just keeps going. But then Caroline joins, her dad says hi, and as this is all going on, Redina like her boyfriend's chopping has gotten louder. It seems like he's doing it just to like spite her at this point. So she mutes and goes over to him and they're talking about something. Obviously we can tell it's like he's kind of mad about it. And the girls talk about how it's a weird situation that they're in. Like they shouldn't have moved in together for lockdown, but they're saying that as if like Regina and the boyfriend probably can't hear them. Like, she muted herself. She didn't mute you. But regardless. So he ends up like leaving, walking away angry. And she comes back and says that she's fine. He's in the bedroom. Everything's fine. Whatever. So Emma is playing around with some of the filters on Zoom. And she puts on like one of the scary face filters. And she's like, this is going to be us later. And they all laugh. So they're all kind of making a joke out of this right off the rip. And then Caroline shows them something that she's done during lockdown. And she puts up this Zoom background that is a video of her room where she is sitting, but it's a video of her coming into her room and like going through her cupboards and stuff. And she's like, oh, it's like I have a twin, look. And like she comes on the screen, you can see both of them at the same time. So they start talking about how Teddy is coming, and they start talking about Ginny, and like we haven't talked to Teddy in so long, and he's so different now because of her. Like she's just so painful. Like basically they don't like their friend Teddy's girlfriend, and they're talking shit when Teddy enters the group chat and Ginny is behind him. So like she probably heard some of that, but Ginny does indeed suck. So she deserves to hear it. So Teddy says hi to everybody, and then he gets up and he goes over to like kiss Ginny and like seemingly say goodbye to her because he's going to do this on his own. And he goes to leave and she's like grabbing at him and like, it's just fucking pathetic. I hate this bitch too. Like we see her for like 5 seconds, but she's so fucking annoying in that 5 seconds that she's in. So she's like grabbing at him, like trying to get him to stay. And he like has to like pry his way out of her fucking hands pretty much. But eventually he goes inside and he tells them like, I'm doing this on my own. And he shows them this like creepy clown doll. They're staying in Ginny's parents' house, which is like this super big, beautiful house. There's this beautiful pool in the backyard. And he's like, yeah, I'm doing this by myself. Shows them this creepy ass clown doll and tells them like it's weird being here with her and her parents. And they kind of like crack jokes about it, whatever. So one of the girls asks him how he's feeling about tonight and if he has his item. And he says, I do. And in fact, I broke quarantine to go get this item. And he pulls out this music box and he opens it and it starts playing. And he explains that it was his grandma's and his brother would hide it around the house when they were kids. And it used to scare the shit out of me. So now Caroline chimes in and says that she's nervous. So some of the girls are nervous about what's going to happen. And Haley is like, listen, she's trying to calm them down. She's like, listen, the woman that's doing this is a friend and I've done it with her a bunch of times. I just ask that you guys take it seriously and be respectful and follow her instructions. She literally had one fucking ask. One ask, and these bitches couldn't fucking do it. And just like right off the rip, you can tell that that's not going to happen. Like especially like it's not all of them, but it's a couple of them, specifically like Teddy right now, because he's like, well, can I take a shot every time she says astral plane? And Haley's like, I don't really think she would like that. Like, can we just not do this? And Regina chimes in and she's like, oh yeah, I'll do it too. Like you could just tell again, like they're not going to follow Haley's wishes. They're not going to be fucking respectful. But Teddy ends up like pouring a drink and he toasts, and the other girls get drinks too or whatever. Some of them do. And he toasts to a happy seance. Happy seance and happy spookies. And Haley takes a Polaroid of them as they're doing this to remember this moment. So now we're understanding that they're doing a virtual seance. That's why some of the girls are nervous. That's why they have these items. And Haley says she texted me. She's in the waiting room. So the girls get a little nervous at this point. And eventually Haley lets this medium or whatever you want to call her into the waiting room. And her name is Salen. And she lets Salen in. And Salen is just right off the rip like, listen, I've never done this over Zoom, so it's going to be something new for all of us. And she asks about their trigger object. She asks if everybody has brought their trigger object, which is something that is connected to somebody you might want to speak to tonight. And all of them hold up their item. So like Teddy holds up that music box. That's what they had been talking about. And now Gemma starts asking questions like, if my grandparents only spoke Chinese, like, can I speak to them? And Salen is like, yeah, there's no language on the astral plane. And like Teddy and Regina like kind of look at each other and smirk and like take a drink off to the side. And you can tell that Haley again is just fucking annoyed by this already. And then like Caroline asks about a pet and she says astral plane again. So like just again, like they're not taking it seriously just pretty immediately. And Teddy even asks like, what's the name of that again? And she again says astral plane because he's just being a dick at this point. So Salen is like, listen, over Zoom, we might be less protected during this, which boom, exit, I must go. I wouldn't be doing this in the first place. Like a seance period, like a seance over Zoom especially, sounds terrible. The second you tell me we might be less protected, hang up. Bye, bitch. I gotta fucking go. Like, I can't be here for you, Haley. I don't know what the fuck you have going on or why you want to do this, but I'm out, bitch. But Salen makes it very clear to everybody. She's like, we might be less protected, so it is very important that we respect the spirits. Again, one fucking rule. One ask. Like, you had one fucking job, and we need to respect the spirits and each other. And she kind of talks the girls through the process to try and lessen any anxiety that they're having, because she can tell that some of them are nervous. And she's like, if anything ever goes wrong, like, we have to visualize ourselves breaking the circle, because in person we would be in a circle holding hands. We have to visualize ourselves breaking the circle, and also visualize a cord around your waist that is leading to your front door, and cut it, and that will sever the connection with the spirit realm. So if anything happens, like, that's what we need to do. So the girls agree, and Salen gets into it. And she tells the girls and everybody to close their eyes and to visualize that circle. And now, as they're doing this, they have candles lit in front of them. They all have an individual candle that Salen told them to light. So the candles are all lit. And as they're closing their eyes and trying to start this up, that fucking bitch Ginny comes in before Teddy. And she's like talking to him. Like, it's obviously silent and they're trying to do something. And she's like loudly talking to him and like starts messing around with Teddy. And Salen and Haley notice it first and just look super annoyed. And then everybody looks super annoyed. And then Ginny like blows out Teddy's candle, like pretending it was an accident and thinking she's funny, like this stupid bitch that she is. And she's like, sorry, everybody, Teddy's got to go, and like hangs up. So Teddy's gone, and it's like, Teddy, why the fuck are you dating this bitch? Like, what are you doing? So the girls are all annoyed. They're like, we hate her. Like, they already hated her. Like, they already made it clear that they did not like her earlier. They're like, oh my God, she's the worst. And Salen is just like, okay, let's bring it back. Like, let's maintain our focus. And she starts to talk to the spirit. She's like, spirits can communicate with us over the internet, and we can all be possessed. And they look panicked at that moment. And she's like, don't be scared by that word. Like, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. And she goes back to telling them, like, I want you to visualize a circle. We're all together in one room, and I want you to all join hands with each other. Like, visualize this and say, Spirit, we invite you to use us. Gross. I don't even like saying that out loud. I don't even like repeating it right now. I don't like that at all. We invite you to use us to pass on any communication you might have. If anyone is here, please come forward. And she makes them all repeat that. If anybody is here, please come forward. And everything goes silent for a minute, and Salen is like, please tell me if anything comes to mind, like if a name or anything comes to mind. And Salen looks at Radina, and she's like, I don't want to make you nervous, but can anybody else see something behind her? And at first the girls think it's just like a reflection, but then Salen is like, no, it was a static light, and now it's kind of moving. And the girls agree, and they start to see something, and then suddenly they hear a thud coming from somewhere, and they all wonder where it came from. They're like, who was that? Was it me? Was it you? And Salen is like, Spirit, if you're trying to give us a sign, please knock again. And at first nothing happens, but like a few seconds later, there's a loud knock again. And Salen is like, oh guys, I'm so sorry. It's my delivery. Like, it's just somebody knocking at her front door. So everybody kind of calms down and like laughs a little bit. So she leaves and goes to the door, and the girls are all laughing. And Gemma and Radina start like making fun of the whole thing. And you can tell Haley looks annoyed because, again, like, Haley takes this seriously. She asked them to take it seriously, and they're just not. So they wait for Salen to come back. Her screen is like just darkness, but you can see like kind of a fireplace. It's kind of creepy looking. But Haley calls out for her after she hasn't come back in a little while, but eventually she does come back. And she picks up again from where she left off. And she's like, if anyone is getting anything, like, please bring it up. And Haley says, she like seems like she felt something. And she's like, I just felt a hand on my shoulder. And before anybody can even like react to that, or like Salen can say anything, Gemma has to make the whole fucking thing about her, because Gemma jumps up and screams, and she seems like she's panicking. She starts panicking. She's like, something touched my neck. And eventually she calms down and she sits back down, and Salen encourages her to start asking questions to this thing. And Gemma at this point is like damn near crying. And she's like, the pressure on my neck is almost unbearable. And Salen tells her to call out and ask who it is. And Gemma does that. She's like, hello, is there someone here? And she waits for a second, and then she tells everybody the name Jack is coming to mind. And Salen asks her if she knows a Jack that has passed. And Gemma says, yeah, it was a kid from school. He was always really nice to me. He hanged himself. And she's fully crying now. And the girls are all very somber and very serious. And Salen starts to speak, but then suddenly her voice starts to cut out. And then she loses connection entirely. And she's like booted from the chat. She's no longer in the chat. So she disappears. And the girls all ask Gemma, like, are you okay? Are you okay? And this fucking stupid bitch looks up at them laughing. She made up the whole fucking thing. Nothing was happening. Like, nothing. And Gemma even, she's like, I'm sorry, but like, there was nothing happening. There was nothing being said. It's like, bitch, Haley had just said she felt she felt a fucking hand on her shoulder, and you have to chime in with your bullshit for what? Attention? You stupid bitch. I hate Gemma so much. I really do. Like, I might hate her more than Juno. And Juno inherently did something worse in like taking them into this cave and not telling anybody, and also like fucking her best friend's man. But Gemma just truly infuriates me to my core, because at least Juno has some like redeeming qualities, because she ends up being a bad bitch to the point, like I said last episode, it's like you're almost rooting for her. Like, you have this cognitive dissonance of like, okay, like she's a shit person. She's the one that got them into this situation, but she is a bad bitch and she's a fighter bitch. Like, you can't deny that. Gemma has no redeeming qualities. And like, this whole thing is going to be her fault because she decided to disrespect Haley, because Haley literally asked you, I have one request, be respectful, don't take this as a joke. And Gemma just like spit in her fucking face, metaphorically. So yeah, I fucking hate her. I can't stand her. Every time she pisses me off. Every time she watches this movie, every time I watch this movie, she pisses me off. I get so full of rage. Like, I just can't help myself. But the girls end up asking Haley about Salen after they all like have that moment of like, Jesus, what the fuck, Gemma? And Haley, you can tell, again, is just fucking pissed at this point. And she's like, her internet went out. I'm going to go pee. And she just gets up and walks away. So the girls at this point all get up and they all walk away to go like take a break. And we just see their empty rooms, and Gemma's candle is blown out. Okay, so Gemma, it's like, girl, you're fucked. Like, you in danger, girl. Like, as you should be, because this is your fault. So Gemma comes back, she relights it, all the other girls come back, and Haley again is like clearly annoyed. She's on her phone and she's pissed off, and Gemma has to push this even further because she's a fucking terrible friend and a shitty bitch, and I hate her. And she pushes it further and she tries to like act like she's being Salen, like she's being a psychic or something, and she's like, I'm sensing some tension. A name's just come to mind. Like, she thinks she's being fucking funny, and she's like, Haley, and she starts repeating Haley's name, and Haley finally snaps. At first she doesn't react, but eventually she's like, fuck off, Gemma, which is like what we've all been thinking, like, fuck off, Gemma. So now they all start to argue because Gemma's like, well, Haley can't have any fun, and Haley is like, I asked you, like, I literally just asked you, which I'm totally on Haley's side for this. And it's chaos as they're all yelling, and like, because the other girls are trying to calm the two of them and break it up, and suddenly everything is they're all distracted when Haley's chair with her sitting on it is suddenly violently pulled back across the room. And she is like pulled back, and it stops, and she just like sits there stunned, and the girls all sit there stunned, and they're like literally all sitting there in stunned silence. And eventually Haley stands up and she's like, I think there's something here. And the girls are all just like, what the fuck? But Haley tells them, we have to keep going. Like, we connected with something and we have to talk to it. So Haley starts to call out and ask, is there anybody here? And she tells everybody to turn all their lights off. So everybody's in the dark except their candle, and they all wait. And eventually Haley starts to hear like a rattling noise kind of coming from behind her. And she turns her mic all the way up so they can all really hear it. And Haley then picks up her computer and she starts walking down the dark hallway towards where she heard this noise. And like, the girls are all watching. They look super nervous. Eventually Haley opens that closet that had opened by itself earlier, and there's nothing there. Like, there's nothing in there. The sound is not coming in from there. And that's another thing I love about this movie. I love movies that can not use music and be effective. So like, there's no music in this movie because again, it's a Zoom call. Why would there be? So there is no sound in this moment with the exception of Haley's like heavy breathing. And it's like, it again makes you feel like you're in it, and you feel like you have to almost like stop your breathing because you want to be quiet. It's like, I don't want to be noticed by this thing. So Haley then goes to another door and there's nothing. And then suddenly she hears a loud thud, and the girls all gasp, and Haley is like, that was not from my house. Like, that did not come from here. And sure enough, Caroline heard something. So Caroline, now it's her turn. She turns around and she hears another thud, and Haley tells her to go check it out. And like, the other girls are like, no, Caroline, like, don't fucking do that. But Caroline does get up and she walks out into the hallway and she calls for her dad, and her dad is nowhere to be found. And she hears it. She starts to go down the stairs, but then she hears a thud from upstairs where she just was, but it's like upstairs. So she goes back up the stairs and she puts the laptop down on the ground, pointed up at the fucking attic. It's always the goddamn attic. So she puts this pointed up at the attic and she opens the attic and pulls the ladder down. And at first she grabs her laptop or whatever she has. I thought it was her laptop, but she ends up like putting it on a stick. So I guess it's her phone, but she points it towards the ladder and then she's like, nope. And she goes to her room and it seems like she gets like a selfie stick and she puts her phone on it and she starts to go up the ladder and she slowly puts the phone up there to pan around and tells them like, tell me if you see anything, which I think this is smart of her. I mean, I don't even think she should be investigating in general, but if you're gonna investigate, at least do it at a far distance like this. So she puts the phone up there and it's all storage and everything seems normal and she's turning it around. And again, this is the scene that I say was inspired by Wreck, and it's not like as blatant of a jump scare as Wreck is, but it's still very fucking unsettling because she's turning the phone around and then suddenly we see feet and legs hanging, like they're like above ground, like they are like levitating because it seems like a person is hanging. And she like goes past it and the girls are like, wait, go back. And she goes back and there's nothing there. Like it's already gone. And the girls kind of argue, like they're like, I saw something. And some of them are like, I didn't see anything. Some of them are like, what the fuck was that? Like they don't really know what they saw, but they tell Haley to call Salen right now. And Caroline is crying now and she goes back to her room and Haley calls Salen and she holds the computer pointed towards her dark hallway because again, she hears something. And the girls ask her what she's doing and Haley like points towards a room at the end of the hallway and she's like, do you see that? And the girls don't see anything. And like, I don't see anything either. We're not supposed to see anything here. And suddenly Haley gasps and she runs into another room and she says, it looked at me. So whatever she's able to see that everybody cannot see, it looked at her. So she grabs that Polaroid camera that she had used earlier and she points the camera back into that dark room. So we're now looking down this dark hallway into this dark room at the very end, which I think is her bedroom. And she starts snapping pictures in the Polaroid, like flash pictures in the hallway. And she snaps a photo and it slowly develops and she goes to look at it and she waits. And suddenly when the picture develops, we can now see that there is something in the room and it looks like somebody hanging. So Haley was able to see that in person. We weren't, but everybody sees it in the photo and everybody starts freaking out. And Emma, as she's freaking out, she has a glass, like a cup right in front of her and the thing bursts. It shatters, glass flies everywhere. She screams. Everybody is panicking now because everybody knows that something is wrong. So Haley calls Salen and she puts her on speakerphone and Salen is like, I apologize. Like I haven't been able to get my internet back up. And Haley tells her like things have been happening, like this is like not good things. And Salen tries to calm everybody down. She's like, well, girls, like not to worry. It's probably just somebody trying to pass on a message. Like Gemma was telling us about Jack, so it's probably him. And they all stop and fucking like dead stare at Gemma because now they're fucking pissed, which they should have been pissed in the first place. And Salen's like, what about Jack? And Haley is like, yeah, Gemma, what about Jack? Because she wants Salen to fucking tell her herself because she's a bitch. And Gemma now is silent. It's like, oh, now you don't want attention? That's funny. And Gemma eventually does admit to Jack not being real. And Salen gets really upset because Salen is like, I told you not to disrespect the spirits. Like literally one fucking rule and this bitch couldn't even follow it. She's like, this is not good. Salen is saying this. She's like, this is not good. By inventing a person that doesn't exist, we have summoned a false spirit. Like you're fucked, basically, what you've done. And you've basically created like a mask. So anything can now come through and wear that mask. We have no idea what we're dealing with. We don't know what it might be. If we're lucky, it's just another spirit. And Caroline, in a broken voice because she's crying, she asks, well, what if we're not lucky? And Salen hesitates, but she's like, it could be something demonic. Yeah, Gemma, that's all your fucking fault. Gemma is so fucking stupid. And Salen goes on to say, Gemma has sent out an open invitation and we need to shut this down. We need to thank the spirits and remember to visualize the rope. So like she's trying to shut this down to save everybody from Gemma's dumbass decisions because she's a stupid bitch. So Salen goes on and she's like, we're going to talk to the spirit. So spirit, give us 1 knock for yes, 2 for no. And she has the girls ask, do you have a message for us? And Haley says her light just turned on. Like her light turned on once. So that means yes. So Salen is like, great. Okay. Let's ask, are you a friend? And when they ask that, every single girl, all the lights in their house violently blink twice. So that's a no. And then Salen, the call drops. Like she is gone. The spirit does not want her here. So everybody starts panicking again, and Haley is like, listen, calm down. Like, we have to do the rope thing. And Gemma has the nerve to be like, Haley, you don't know what you're doing. Bitch, I'm doing more than you are. Like, you're literally the reason for this whole thing. Don't fucking tell me I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you should, like, fuck you. So, and Haley even says that. She's like, shut the fuck up, Gemma. Like, she's so sick of Gemma at this point, as we all are. And she says, like, shut the fuck up for 1 second. And she tells everybody, imagine the rope and say, I'm sorry, Spirit. Repeat after me. So they all start repeating, like, I'm sorry, Spirit. And she's like, close your eyes, imagine the rope being cut, and open your eyes. So they all open their eyes. They blow out the candle because Haley tells them to, and that'll break the circle. So the girls all do it. They're crying, and eventually everything calms down a little bit. And Haley sneezes, which was not scripted. So she sneezes, and that's kind of like you kind of breaks the tension a little bit. Like they all kind of start like laughing a little bit because they think it's over, because everything calms down. Everything seems fine. And Haley calms down, and the girls are all like, we're never doing that again. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, they all kind of relax a bit. And Radina goes to the bathroom, and she's like, panic, we, which this is British. They're all British, by the way. So that's why she says we, which I think is adorable. She's like, panic, we, and I don't want to be by myself. So she brings the girls into the bathroom with her, and she's like, I'm not going anywhere alone. Like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. So the girls are all agreeing. And then they're all kind of just like shooting the shit when we see Radina go into her bedroom, and her boyfriend is not there, and she seems confused, and she picks up her phone and she starts to call him. And as this is happening, the girls are talking about like, oh, wait till Teddy calls and like hears about this. Like, I can't wait to tell him. And now Radina, as she's calling her boyfriend, she can hear his phone ringing. So she goes to follow it, and she finds his phone in the bathroom. And she's like, she asks the girl, she's like, did anybody see Alan leaving? Because he would have had to like walk behind her to get out of the apartment. And they all say no. And they like wonder where he could possibly be. And Radina is like, okay, maybe he went to his brother. So she mutes herself and she goes to call Alan's brother. So she's kind of off to the side doing that. And then Gemma is like, okay, guys, that was fun, but like, I'm going to bed. Like, I'm gonna go. That was fucking scary. And they all start to say their goodbyes. But then we've noticed that Caroline has walked away from the camera as well. And she has kind of disappeared. Like, now we're just seeing her empty room. And the girls are like, wait, where's Caroline? And then they're like, wait, there she is. But she's coming in and going to her drawer. And it's just that video that she was playing earlier that's a background. So we're just seeing a background. We don't know where Caroline actually is. And the girls realize that. They're like, no, this is just the background that she had played earlier. And Haley goes to pick up her phone and call Caroline when suddenly her laptop collapses. Caroline's does. Her laptop collapses and the girls all panic. They're like, her laptop just fell. Like, what the fuck is going on? So meanwhile, we see Emma. She's walking around in her apartment and she moves her laptop up to show the lights on the ceiling, and they're swinging ever so slightly, but they're swinging by themselves. So of course, this isn't over. So we know Emma had been the one using those like face filters earlier. So now she turns her camera and she sees one of those face filters just like in the middle of her fucking living room as if it's on something. And she gasps and she jumps back. And the girls are all like, what the fuck? And she just keeps staring at it, and the thing is just standing there. And she panics. She's breathing heavy. And now Haley at this time is trying to call Caroline, and it goes to voicemail. And now they're watching Emma as she approaches where this face is, and it's turned away from her, but as she gets closer, it suddenly turns towards her. And she fucking panics and she runs, and when she looks back, the thing is gone. So she goes into her kitchen and she grabs a thing of flour and she goes back and she throws it on the floor where this thing was. And as she's doing this, suddenly behind her, all of the cupboards in her kitchen open by themselves. And the girls all start yelling. They're like, Emma, get out of there, like run. So Emma looks down in the flour and she sees fucking footprints appearing and they're coming towards her. So everything then starts shaking. Like the cupboards are like now opening even more, opening and closing. Everything's falling out of them. She starts running. Meanwhile, Caroline has seemingly left the call and Radina is not in frame. She's still off somewhere, so she doesn't even know that this is happening. And Emma, poor Emma, runs and she hides, and eventually she like slowly goes back into her kitchen as everything kind of calms down. And we can see that her kitchen is just a total mess. Like everything's been thrown out of the cupboards, and then she hears something and she looks down and footprints and flour start to come towards her again. And on top of that, the one light that she has on in the house completely blows out. So now she's in darkness and we see her running and suddenly she's screaming. And the way that the laptop is positioned, it's kind of like pointed at her feet. And we see that she is suddenly lifted up. Like her feet are like levitating off the ground, like she has been lifted up by something, and she struggles, and eventually she is dropped and everything goes silent for a minute. But then she picks up her laptop and she runs into her room and she closes her door and she hides under her sheets. Like this poor girl is the first one to really get it here. And now Radina comes back in frame and we see her like still on the phone in the background. She's muted, so we can't hear what she's saying. But in her kitchen, her oven light turns on, and like her oven turns on in general because we see that it like smoke starts to come from it. And the girls start to see this too, and Radina doesn't notice. And the girls are all trying to like yell and get her attention, and Emma is hiding under the sheets, completely traumatized at this point. And Radina comes back to the computer and she turns off the mute button because the girls are all yelling for her to come back. And she comes back, she unmutes herself and she's like, what? Like she seems kind of annoyed. And the second she says what, Alan's body drops from the fucking ceiling, like seemingly from fucking out of nowhere, drops dead on the fucking ground behind Radina. So Radina grabs her laptop and she makes a fucking run for it. She tries to like lock herself in another room, but suddenly she falls as if she was like pushed or dragged. And we again, kind of like how we saw Emma's, her laptop or her phone, whatever, is kind of turned towards her feet. And we can see her being dragged down this hallway by something. We don't see what it is, but we see her being dragged down this hallway. And then suddenly we hear a crack and a thud. And the computer falls and we see like a singular drop of blood on it. So it's kind of like positioned like looking up at the ceiling as if it fell. And there's a singular drop of blood on the camera. So we know Radina just fucking got it. Radina just fucking ate it. Like she is gone. So the girls are all crying, and then they suddenly start to get these messages from Caroline, but it's all just like random numbers and letters. It makes no sense. And Caroline like pops back up in the chat, but it's that same video again, like that background video. But this time in between it, we can kind of see Caroline getting thrown towards the computer. So it's like she's sitting there and she's getting thrown towards the table and her face is being smashed on the desk, and she keeps coming back up and she's like all bloody. And she looks at her friends and she just says, help me, as the girls scream and cry. And eventually Caroline like gets one final slam and it's just the background again. So Caroline has died as well. Caroline has been killed by the spirit. So Haley at this point calls Salen, or tries to call Salen, because she's fucking freaking out. And Gemma tries to tell her to stop. And Gemma has the fucking nerve. This part makes me see red. Like I would go to Gemma's house and kill her to death with my bare hands. And she has the fucking nerve to tell Haley, this is all your fault. And Haley immediately is obviously like, no, this is your fault. And now they keep going back and forth for a minute here when suddenly they're again distracted because Haley is once again violently pulled back. Like her chair is violently pulled back to the point where she like falls out of her chair this time. And eventually she like sits on the floor crying, and eventually she does gather herself and she stands up and she goes towards the chair, but it flies back. And now suddenly Haley is pulled back by her foot and she's being pulled into that dark hallway, and she gets fully pulled by her foot by this unseen force into this dark hallway, and the door slams. So she's fucking gone. So at this point, Emma is crying. Like Emma's still hiding under her covers. She's fucking distraught. She's crying. And we see Gemma take out a mask, like a COVID mask, like a surgical mask, and she goes to put it on. And Emma's like, please don't leave. Like, what are you doing? And Gemma is like, I have to. And she takes her laptop and she runs outside. And because she's outside, she eventually loses service and the call drops. So now it's just Emma with Radina's body, with that drop of blood, with Haley, her empty house, her empty dark house, and Caroline's background video playing on loop. And it's just Emma. And suddenly, that's when Teddy comes back. This fucking idiot decides to come back at this exact moment. And when he does, it's an empty chair. And then we see that creepy clown doll come into frame. And he pops on the screen and he's like, ha ha ha. Like, you immediately don't see this and realize that something's wrong. Men, am I right? Poor Emma is absolutely terrified to the point where she can like barely speak. And Teddy again comes back into frame and he's laughing and he apologizes for taking so long. And Emma again is like very clearly distraught and crying and like trying to speak. And Teddy is just simply not listening. Like he just keeps talking over her and like doesn't see what's going on and realize that something's wrong. And he's like, where is everyone? Like everybody stop hiding. Come out. Ha ha ha. Now I hate Teddy too. I hate him in this moment. Like I fucking can't. Like you're so dumb. Like how are you this just fucking dumb. Come on. Like, obviously something is very wrong. And he's laughing, and he continues laughing until suddenly his lights turn out. And Emma is like trying to tell him, like, we're going to die, like something's wrong. And he's just simply not fucking listening. And he's still laughing. And he just thinks like, oh, the power went out, whatever. And we see him looking around with the flashlight. And I love this part because it's like, finally, like, it doesn't take long for Teddy to finally understand that something's wrong. And I think even the demon here was pissed off at him because it's like, well, I guess I'm just going to show him who I really am. Because this is the first time we see the demon or this like evil spirit, whatever you want to call it, in its form, and its like true form. And it's very brief, but it shows itself to Teddy first, because I love this scene because you're not really expecting it, because Teddy has his laptop and he has a flashlight out and he starts to walk up the stairs. And as he's walking up the stairs, he climbs one step and suddenly in frame is the face of this fucking demon. And now this thing looks like it's burnt. I am going to put pictures up of the demon. I'll try and find one to put here, and I'll put one up at the end too. So if you're watching the video episode, fair warning, so it's not a jump scare, but I will try to find a picture of the demon at this moment, and then I definitely will show it at the end. But this thing looks like burnt, like its skin is like black and charred, and it has like white eyes, and it just screeches at him. And finally Teddy understands that he's a dumbass and he should have listened and something's wrong. And he runs, and now Emma is screaming and crying as this is happening. And eventually Teddy goes outside and he sees Ginny and he runs toward her. And this bitch, I don't feel bad for her, but she suddenly, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say I don't. I mean, no, I don't. I don't know who the fuck I'm trying to be. I really don't. Because, like, no, she didn't want to get involved in this, but she was also just, like, an annoying bitch. But, like, also by her being an annoying bitch, she could have saved Teddy's life, but for some reason he had to get back onto this call. I don't fucking know. But he runs towards Ginny, and we see Ginny suddenly just be, like, levitated and lifted up into the air, and it looks like she's being strangled, and then suddenly we hear her neck snap, and she just falls into the pool dead. So she's fucking dead. And Emma is still crying. And she's like, there's someone there. Like, she's trying to get any words out. And Teddy cries and he hides. And he starts to hear like a thudding noise. And he turns the camera towards where this noise is coming. And he's outside in the yard. And suddenly he starts to hear a music box. And he starts to follow where this music box is playing, and the light blows out. So now he's in complete darkness, and he just hears that music box, and he lights a lighter. So now we're just in the light of his lighter, and he looks around and he goes towards the music. And eventually he sees the music box on the ground. And as he goes towards it, we see that he is dragged back by something. And the laptop falls to the ground, and his like lifeless, unconscious body falls in front of it. And he's not dead yet, but he's about to be. And he falls unconscious. And then we just see him start to set on fire slowly. So this fire starts to creep up his arm, and then up his back, and then up his head. And he like wakes up suddenly and starts screaming as he burns to death, as Emma just watches helplessly, and his feed cuts out. That's it. He's done. Teddy's fucking dead. Teddy got it bad. So now it's just Emma, and she hears a thud, and she comes out from under her covers very slowly, and she sees that her bedroom door has been opened, and she grabs a blanket, and she looks at the open door, and she hesitates, but eventually she throws this blanket, and sure enough, it lands over a figure. Like, there's nothing there, but it lands over a figure, so we know that something is there, and she screams. And now this is very shaky, but what I assume happened is she panicked, and instead of going out that door, because she couldn't get by it, she decided to take her chances by going out the window. And she like throws her laptop or her phone or whatever out the window, and it lands on the ground, and we see Emma fall to her death. She jumps out this window and like falls on a picnic table and just lies there still. She's dead. She just died. So now all the screens are empty. Caroline's is still playing that video, and we suddenly hear knocking and eventually glass shattering, because we see that Gemma has made it to Haley's apartment and she has broken her way in. She broke the window and she's now inside, and she looks at the computer and sees that everybody else is dead. So she wasn't seeing this as it was happening, but she sees it now. And she starts walking away as Teddy signs off. And then Radina signs off, and then Caroline, and then Emma, and now it's just Haley and Gemma in her apartment. And Gemma calls out for Haley, and suddenly this glass bottle like flies out of the kitchen and fucking hits Gemma directly in the head and like knocks her out, which I'm like, damn, I've wanted to knock out this bitch the whole fucking show. Like, you go, ghost, you go, demon. But now she falls to the ground and the room is empty and they're just completely in silence when suddenly Gemma like reaches her hand up towards the laptop and she grabs it and it falls to the ground. So we can see her lying on the floor bloody. And suddenly all of the cabinets in the kitchen start to open. And she grabs the computer and she manages to get up and she screams. She's like, fuck you. Like she's screaming to the demon. It's like, girl, you brought this thing here. So like, this is what you fucking get. And there's like a chair that moves on its own, and Gemma again grabs the laptop and she starts going down that dark hallway. And as she's doing that, like the closet opens and the ironing board falls out and she starts to hear thumping. Like this thing is just coming from everywhere now. And eventually she moves past the closet and she goes into the dark bedroom. And as she gets in there, she's startled because a chair falls over, but it's just Haley coming out. She was hiding underneath the desk. So she pushes the chair out and she comes out from underneath the desk. And this is like the funniest part of this whole movie because it's so COVID, because she stands up and they look at each other and they're like, they elbow bump. They fucking elbow bump. And they kind of like laugh about it. So I actually do like that they put that in there because it's like so weirdly realistic that even though we're being attacked by a demon, it is still a pandemic. So like, we're going to fucking elbow bump here, bitch. They all start laughing and they turn towards the kitchen. So now they're going the opposite way back down the hallway and they see like a chair move by itself and the lights all go out completely. So now they're in utter darkness. And Gemma is like, we need to get out of here. And it's at this part that Haley pisses me off because she grabs a camera and instead of being like, yes, Gemma, let's get the fuck out of here immediately, she grabs that Polaroid camera and she starts going towards the kitchen and she starts snapping pictures. And you're like, oh fuck, it's complete darkness. So like, you know that in one of these flashes, you're going to see something. You just don't know which one. And she snaps one and there's nothing. And she snaps another and there's nothing. And this is all happening very slowly as they're like slowly getting closer and closer to the kitchen. So she snaps a third and there's nothing. And then she gets closer and she snaps a fourth and there's nothing. And then suddenly she goes to snap that final picture and we get a crazy jump scare when this burnt ass demon, white-eyed, bloody looking fucking creature pops out of the dark at them and just runs at them. And we cut to black. And the movie ends. And it literally says this free Zoom meeting has ended. And I love this because we even get the credits in the form of Zoom. So like they pull up like the participant list and they're going through it. And that's like the credits. That's how they do the credits. That's how this movie ends. I like that we barely saw the demon in this movie. Like I like that it was open to interpretation. I almost would have liked even more if we didn't see it at all. Like if we again like went full Blair Witch and like never actually saw the creature or like maybe saw it from the back or something. Like I think it is super creepy looking, so I don't think it takes away that we see it entirely, but I think it would have like added to the mystery and to like the eeriness of this movie if we didn't see it entirely. But I do actually like the design of it. I think it's super fucking creepy looking, and I don't think this is a cheap jump scare. Like I hate when a movie ends on a cheap jump scare. I don't think this is a cheap jump scare. I think this was a necessary jump scare because it's like everybody's getting got in one way or another, and like these two girls got to fucking get it too, and that's a perfect way to do it. And I love that it happens right as the fucking Zoom ends. Like, your time is up. Goodbye. R.I.P. So yeah, that's why I tell you that Gemma is in the running for worst friend this month. She might be my least favorite, honestly. I'm like looking at the lineup we have. There's really nobody else in any of these movies that I'm going to dislike as much as Gemma. And I know that's crazy to say in a month where I talked about The Descent and we have Juno. But again, at least Juno has like a fucking redeeming quality about her and she can fight and she's a bad bitch. Gemma is just annoying. She gets knocked out with a bottle immediately upon entering Haley's house trying to be the fucking hero. It was all for nothing. And this was literally all her fault because she couldn't respect her friend. And like, yes, even though Juno obviously didn't respect Sarah because she was fucking her husband, she still refused to leave that cave without Sarah. So like, at least she was still a good friend in some ways. And I guess, yeah, you can argue like Gemma came to find Haley, Gemma came to Haley's house, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I hate her. I just hate her. But that was Host. So if you've never seen Host and you've heard about that list of like the scariest, scientifically scariest movies of all time, that's it. And I think it does deserve its place on that list. Again, I think it's very impressive to be able to do that in such a short period of time, 56 minutes. I think it's great. I think it's a great movie. I think it was really different at the time that it came out. And again, I think it was very relatable because it was released during COVID and like we all felt trapped at that time. And like it was one of those movies I remember watching during COVID and it's like, oh, my lockdown, my quarantine isn't that bad because this could happen to me. So if anything, it actually made me feel a little bit better. So that was nice. But that was Host. I hope you guys liked this episode. If you haven't yet given me a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to me, it would be super helpful, helps push me out into the algorithm and find other people to join our lovely little growing community of spooky bitches we have here. So on Wednesday, we're talking about Bodies, which I think is fucking hilarious. I'm actually so excited to talk about that movie. It's so silly, it's so campy, it's so much fun, and it has a crazy twist that I did not see coming. So that will be on Wednesday, and then on Friday next week, we're going to talk about Truth or Dare, the one with Lucy Hale, which is kind of like a guilty pleasure movie for me because a lot of people dislike that movie and it has very bad ratings. I personally am a huge fan of it. Like, I really love it. It's one of those movies that I'll put on in the background a lot, like just to have on. I get a kick out of it. I think it's great. So that's the lineup for next week. So until then, you guys know where to find me. It's horror_chronicles on TikTok and Instagram. I post every day so you can keep up with me there. And until next time, watch more horror movies and stay spooky, my friends.